Okay, it is Monday, January 13th, 2020. This is a specific note of documentation where I remain inside of a vehicle that is parked at the north end of FERN and G Street, G as in goat, where I have engaged in extensive documentation since I've been in this vehicle since October 16th, which is, again, most notably consistent with that which I have continued to document with regard to the state system of stalking and harassment and monitoring. This is a matter of the surveillance and the monitoring, because it's surveillance because this is where the state and third parties are engaged in, focused on remaining where I am, focused on me being inside of this vehicle. That is a matter of surveillance. The stalking, following me to and from, consistently occurs, but this is specifically under the law. The facts are relevant to the ongoing surveillance, to the ongoing monitoring, again, which is the main component in a state-organized system of stalking and harassment, broken down into the elements that I have provided in my documentation. So as of 12:09 p.m., I just want to specifically note, this is consistent with my documentation that is occurring inside of facilitating venues. It is occurring at all times, and when you are engaged in a matter of documenting that which is a issue of public corruption, and it is necessarily occurring under the pretense of everyday life. There are a plethora of ways they engage in the same elements over and over again. The ways in which it manifests itself, it's innumerable in and of itself. And I am specifically regarding the issue of nonverbal communication and the role that plays. It is actually a very central role with regard to monitoring the target individual. I am subject to ongoing monitoring inside of this car, and again, the factual circumstances are that the windows are substantially covered up. The fact that I'm targeted, this is already established in my documentation. What I want to show is the fact that they are engaging in such conduct is the proof. It's ongoing proof. Everything that I continue to gather is continuous proof, consistent proof of the exact stalking that is already proven as well. The fact that the state is stalking me, the fact that law enforcement is engaged in stalking and harassment and monitoring, that is an irreducible element in this already. It's already established. The fact that the airplanes continue to fly over this vehicle, fly around this vehicle, and in addition to flying around at every other place where I appear, and this has been the case for over 365 days, over a year and a half now, actually. You're talking since December of 2018. So we are over a year, a little less than a year and a half. So anyway, it's 12:20 right now, and that was an airplane that is flying behind the location of this car. Again, this is a residential neighborhood. None of this documentation is new. What I want to specifically know is the use of the state's nonverbal communication, and I have identified it in its different forms in the totality of my documentation. At 12:09 specifically, though, I am inside of a vehicle where I remain. The windows are covered up with blankets. And I'm not engaging in anything substantially loud or anything such that it would cause any attention to me. I am targeted, and this is the way in which it manifests itself. The same P.O.C. that I document inside of facilitating venues such as Stater Brothers, such as Omnitrans, such as the public libraries, such as Starbucks. This is the consistent P.O.C. as it exists inside of a vehicle where I remain, because that is my circumstance. So this is a matter of surveillance, and this is actually what would be occurring inside of a private residence, and based on what I have outlined as the elements, this is the reason why ordinarily a target individual would have no idea that it is occurring, yet the facts are nuanced in this case because the state is highly aggressive and hostile, particularly to me, because not only have I initiated civil proceedings against it, I continue to do so, and I am openly documenting what is criminal conduct, and I readily identify it as such based on the provisions of the criminal statute. It's not that I'm making it up. This is crimes that the government is engaged in, and each and every vessel that I document engaged in that. And so you have the state of California. I have identified them under my theory as third parties because they are servants of this government that is engaged in stalking and harassing and monitoring an American citizen. So while I'm inside of this vehicle wearing headphones, listening to, again, on in a personalized manner, wearing headphones in my ears, as soon as I stop, I keep the headphones on. As soon as I stop playing what I was listening to in my headphones, there is items dropped on the top of this car. That is nonverbal communication. It is also harassment, but it's specifically used for purposes of nonverbal communication. Now, the question is, who's being communicated with? That is the dropping of items on the vehicle with the third parties who are acting in concert with that state. Nonverbal communication, as is the case, as I have documented, as I have explained clearly, logically, with regard to what, for the preeminent example being the Starbucks employees who engage in an elaborate form of nonverbal communication. It is for the systematic, relevant positioning of third parties. It is for the communication of the activity, the movement, or any change thereof of the targeted individual. The targeted individual is to be surrounded at all times because they are actively and ceaselessly engaged in seeking out and seeking to steal electronic information. Now, that information is that which resides in a communication device. So I was also engaged in activity on my communication device. I was also engaged in preparing to exit this vehicle. These are the purposes of that nonverbal communication. The fact that it occurs in simultaneity with my movement, with my activity on my communication device, that is P.O.C. The fact that it is occurring while I'm inside of this vehicle, while I am, and it's no coincidence that it's occurring while I'm preparing to get out, that is, i.e., removing the blankets so that I can see, removing my belongings, getting ready to walk to wherever it is that I'm walking to, where the airplanes engage in following me there. It is an expansive system that I'm documenting, and this is the purpose of nonverbal communication. This is the concerted action. This is intentional and deliberate conduct on the part of third parties, and this is a means of communication. Nonverbal, even where you have third parties engaging in using conversation, they're using verbal words, but it is not directly speaking to and addressing the targeted individual, hence the term nonverbal. It is code, if you will, and it takes whatever form is convenient or necessary in order to keep concealed what it is that they are actually communicating. And so that is why I've termed it nonverbal communication. It is a consistent element. It is necessary because you have the concerted action, and that is the way in which that they communicate what needs to happen. This is why it occurs with the immediacy that it does. This speaks to the airplane's conduct. This speaks to the law enforcement conduct. Everything that I continue to document is that which mirrors my activity, my movement, any change thereof. It is identical to the way that I have defined it because it is identical to the behavioral patterns of the state and third parties alike. And so again, that was at 12:09 in operation of my communication device. An item immediately dropped on my car as I stopped listening to that, which was playing on headphones. Again, the other part that is relevant about that is necessarily invasion of privacy. That's an imminent aspect of nonverbal communication, them listening very closely to the target individual, to any and everything that they are engaged in. And so that is also the lack of any coincidence. This is consistency with that which I continue to document. And again, the universal facts as they exist, and it is not a question. It's already actually a matter of proceedings against the state that the state is actively seeking to avoid. But nonetheless, it exists, and it is added documentation, very credible and relevant documentation. The most credible, the fact that it is in the courts. So anyway, that aspect of evidence is the stalking of the government via aircraft, and what they are doing is legally defined as such, and it is also defined by common sense, the unmistakable occurrence of airplanes occurring everywhere that you are, appearing everywhere that you are, flying directly over you is showing how you are the targeted person, flying around and doing so in concert with any activity or change that you're engaged in, flying over you as you are exiting, facilitating venues. Excuse me, and also engaged in documenting third parties, which they are very hostile to. So third parties that are acting in concert, they share that hostility, they share that aggression. This has also been documented, for example, in the facilitating venue of Starbucks. The systematic harassment is indicative of that. It is a lack of any coincidence. It is also an element in the ongoing system that I continue to document, but it is highly relevant with regard to the factual circumstances as they exist. I'm documenting criminal conduct. I'm prosecuting the state of California, and I'm connecting all aspects of the system that is in existence that I'm aware of, that I've broken down into elements, and this is the systematic documentation of that hostility as I continue to take note of it, and I will present every ounce of it to the United States Supreme Court against this state. It's January 13th again, and what you have are the airplanes that are flying over, so that is the irreducible fact that is highly relevant in providing context to that which I document. So it's not a coincidence. It is consistent with every other fact that I continue to document. The fact that they are engaged in nonverbal communication, which is indicative of the ongoing system as I remain inside of the vehicle, which is a matter of surveillance. It is 12:58 p.m. And again, I am inside of the facilitating venue Starbucks, specifically inside of the restroom, where the usual invasion of privacy continues inside of the bathroom here. What I want to specifically note is I will work backwards from arrival here at 12:49 directly inside of the restroom where P.O.C. was immediately underway upon my arrival. That is walking around the corner. And directly in relevant position, you have a third-party patron standing at the patio, communication device in operation, a third-party patron specifically that has been engaged in the P.O.C. Several times, according to my observations, standing directly in front of where I was walking, again, being followed here all the way by the aircraft and the relevant positioning of third parties, all the way en route here. It's not a surprise. The part of the building where I'm going to turn around, the sidewalk I'm going to necessarily walk on. This is relevant positioning inside of the Starbucks and outside at the patio as I approach the entrance. So again, you have a third-party employee seated at the table at the north side where the restrooms are, again, where I would predictably go. I am subject to monitoring and stalking. This is not a question. So she is seated inside on a communication device. Again, inside, that's relevant positioning as well. As I walk south toward the entrance, and relevant positioning directly in front of me is a third-party patron on a communication device standing outside. Again, my arrival anticipated. This is analogous to the same conduct they engage in while I walk anywhere in their vehicles, where they anticipate my arrival, where they follow me where I go, or they are ahead of where I go, in addition to the aircraft following everywhere that I go and flying around and about and directly over me. So that is the P.O.C. upon my immediate arrival at 12:49 p.m. I did enter the establishment again. The third-party employee, specifically named Samantha, on her communication device is relevant positioning upon my entrance. That's air movement. That's communication device. That's relevant positioning. This is also the same P.O.C. they engage in by standing at the bar where the employees typically stand at the end of the corner with a communication device upon my entrance. I've documented Manny. I've documented other employees engaged in the same P.O.C. upon my anticipated entrance into this establishment. Today, January 13, 2020 at 12:49 p.m., that was the P.O.C., that was the way that it appeared upon my entrance. I did go into the restroom, and again, inside of the restroom, the same third-party employees and the patrons inside remain in relevant positioning. This is the parking lot. This is the aircrafts also that are on top and flying around this building. These are facts that are already established. I'm just laying out the way that it is appearing today. So we can track backwards. Again, I documented 3 specific airplanes that audibly flew over. This is not including the airplanes that engage in flying and engage in doing so inconspicuously, not seeking to be heard. Those are just the airplanes that audibly flew above. And that was upon my exit of the vehicle, third parties getting in their cars, exiting their cars, closing the car doors. They're engaged in ongoing surveillance. That's what that is indicative of. That was the airplane flying over me upon my exit of the vehicle. I immediately went to the 7-Eleven, another facilitating venue, where the third parties in relevant position in line, which is necessary in order to make a purchase. This speaks to the seamless, feasible way that the same search is occurring at all times, at all places, just on the basic ways in which society is organized. And this is how public corruption is designed to hide itself in plain sight. So while they stand in line and I walk past its relevant positioning, while I engage in walking through the store, the nonverbal communication through use of the entrance door, I stood in relevant position as third parties continue to enter. Again, there is no coincidence with regard, and there is no exception or exclusion where you have the state engaged in stalking, where you have the consistent identical behavior on the part of third parties that consistently and systematically and ceaselessly surround I'm the targeted individual. This is at the 7-Eleven at Vine and G Street, where, again, an airplane's engaged in following me from the vehicle to the 7-Eleven en route to the Starbucks where I'm at now, where I have just got through reciting how the P.O.C. appeared upon my entrance. So you have another airplane that flew directly over me. It was flying south as I was walking west on, that was F Street, F as in Frank, walking towards San Antonio. The plane flew directly over me, and then engaging in crossing paths with U.S.PS, who again I have documentation of engaging in the same P.O.C. for a prolonged amount of time, engaged in analogous peculiar behavior. This is speaking to indirectly the same criminal conduct that I continue to document, the peculiarities, the facts that surround it, speaking to the system that I am uncovering, that I'm exposing, and that's why it appears so peculiar. USPS is an entity that is engaged in the same P.O.C. I not only have documented their ubiquitous presence, their attempts to try to contradict my documentation of other commercial third parties engaged in P.O.C., and that is based on their ongoing, again, knowledge of my documentation. That is the substance of my documentation regardless. Today, again, the airplane flew directly over me as I was walking on F as in Frank Street towards San Antonio, and immediately crossing path was a USPS female, which I documented as she engaged in appearing to be on the job, right? This is the ways in which they are engaging in the criminal conduct. This is identical to the Starbucks employees. That's exactly what they do, and it is necessary because this is a system that is hiding itself under the factual circumstances as they play. So with USPS, she parked her little USPS Jeep right there at the corner in order to engage in crossing paths. And went about on her trail after crossing paths, after the plane flew directly over me, with her mail in her hand. That is supposed to be the guise under which she is crossing paths. What I am showing is what is actually simultaneously occurring. The timing with which it occurs is not a coincidence. The fact that it is identical to that which I have exposed as the elements with regard to the ongoing search, again, is not a coincidence. You can compare it directly to what the third-party employees are engaged in here at Starbucks as I continue to document their criminal conduct on a daily basis, which is in conformity to an overall pattern that they continue to act in conformity to. And this is with the universal fact of the airplanes, the government itself that is engaged in stalking me. It is not a coincidence that the government is choosing to stalk an American citizen who is openly and expeditiously, effectively documenting what is a matter of criminal conduct on the part of the state of California. That's exactly why I'm being targeted by the government, and it speaks to the veracity of that which I am actually exposing. That's exactly why they are doing so. And the tremendous pile of evidence I have against Starbucks is the case against California, and the state of California, the government of California, has absolutely no argument that it can make with regard to stalking an American citizen. And what I am showing is that these are the reasons why they are engaged in that. It is the very thing, the very substance of my documentation on a daily basis with regard to these third parties, which is the matter that I originally started documenting, again, as I've already stated, over a year and a half ago, when I was documenting strangers engaged in stalking conduct, when I was driving around through different cities, different counties, and I began to document law enforcement and total strangers engaged in stalking conduct. This is when law enforcement became more obviously present everywhere I went. This is where the airplanes arrived and began stalking. So, like I said, this is the very system that I am demonstrating it to be. What I am showing is the desperate measures that the government continues to engage in, which will only be a matter of the pleadings against it in the United States Supreme Court, because it is not stopping the case against it. It is every day, moment by moment, nailing more and more of its guilt and readily apparent liability with regard to the third parties who are acting in concert to it. Not only is the state already prosecuted, but these third parties acting in concert to it are not only linked to that prosecution of the state, they are adding additional context to that. It is the very system, and this is the reasons why I am the targeted individual. Thankfully, I happen to be aware, and I have the convenience and the ability to continue to document it. So I'm inside of the restroom again. Invasion of privacy is inherent to this system. They are listening to me document. This speaks to the ongoing harassment. This speaks to the desperate measures that they go to that I just continue to document. It is unbelievable. You're talking about fake moons. You're talking about fire trucks parked on the opposite, wrong side of the street for no reason while I go into the bathroom, or so they thought. So this has added relevance to exactly what I'm documenting inside of this facility. And what I also want to note is that Starbucks is not only liable for surveillance, for invasion of privacy inside of the bathroom, for monitoring, and for deliberately acting in concert as a facilitating venue, as one that is acting in concert with the government who is engaged in stalking and harassment. But they are also liable for assault and battery against, battery actually, against my person, and that is based on the intentional dilution of matter that I have no consent or knowledge of into the water that I order from them. That is a harmful or offensive contact, and I have documented its affects on my person. I have documented the ways in which my digestive system deviated from that which is normally the case. I have also compared it to that which was previously documented with regard to TRACEE's provision of food and providing the same. What Starbucks did is ratcheted up. I also experienced abdominal pain. These are indicators of what I have documented with regard to my ordering ice water, hot water from them. It is very limited the way the venues that I get food from, so it is narrowed down to exactly where I am at, and it is 1:08 p.m., January 13, 2020. Okay, it is 2:12 p.m. and I just want to go ahead and note a couple of things. The significance of the third-party employees, that is, I am at the facilitating venue of Starbucks, where they are engaged in the systematic P.O.C. For this venue. That is the provision of the nonverbal communication on a systematic, ceaseless basis. Nonverbal communication is central to the ongoing system as it operates. They are sending indication of the targeted individual's movements. That is writing with a pen, that is touching, grabbing, moving, even focusing eye vision. It's very close monitoring that the target individual is subject to. And as of 2:10 p.m., I literally just illustrated it again with regard to scribbling on a piece of paper and furiously writing. The clamor that they engage in the background, in concert to my writing with simultaneity, they also increased in their clamor. And that was immediately followed by the flashing of light coming from the right side of this building. And again, the vehicles that are driving north and south on San Antonio, any vehicle that is going to be turning to go from east or west on HOLT to turn north or south onto San Antonio, none of that is resulting in any flashing of light where the sun is south of these locations, south of this intersection. That is the same P.O.C. with regard to enhanced light tactics. And again, the fact that it is occurring is proof of the system. The fact that it is occurring in simultaneity with my movement and conduct, the fact that it is occurring in simultaneity with the use of the nonverbal communication. These are all the elements that remain present. What I want to show, number one, is that the current employees that are engaged in the P.O.C. of the nonverbal communication is Nikki, Jasmine, Damaris, Roger, Samantha, and Manny. They are the current employees. Again, they are merely representative of that which is occurring on an expansive basis as I continue to document this system. But again, their role is engaging in the nonverbal communication, which is mirroring, which is subject to the ongoing invasion of privacy, which is imminent, again, to the nonverbal communication. They are listening, they are hovering in while conducting themselves outwardly as though they are not. Again, P.O.C. inside of Starbucks is you enter under you're purchasing a drink, you're waiting for that drink to be made, you are engaged in making that drink. They use those factual circumstances to engage in criminal conduct, and this is the significance of what I continue. That would be the subject of the written documentation to supplement that which I am documenting in other form. So that was P.O.C. upon entrance. Again, that was 3 airplanes that flew directly over me from the vehicle to 7-Eleven, to Starbucks. I exited Starbucks and I went to complete a purchase at Stater Brothers. That is another facilitating venue where the P.O.C. is underway. And I returned to Starbucks, and so What I also have is the significance of my still images that I captured of the state who directly was present, and this is all elements present with regard to that specific documentation. And again, it just adds added relevance to the very thing that I continue to document. It just speaks to the malice and willfulness on the part of this state. And when I am speaking state, now I am all-inclusive, including the third parties that are engaged in surveillance and monitoring right now as I speak, because where I am documenting the third-party employees engaged in nonverbal communication, that is the indicator of the ongoing system. And so this is speaking to the criminal conduct that every single third-party patron is engaged in right now as they seat inside, enter, and exit this establishment, because that is what is underway. But what I specifically want to go back to is my documentation at 1:18 p.m. engaged in a conversation inside of this establishment at the north corner with Roger and Samantha. They are third-party employees, and specifically, I'm talking about the substance of this case. It is a substantial case against the government and against the state of California. And as I am engaged in such verbal exchange, which again is subject to monitoring, nonetheless, of course, the state appears in the form of a firefighter. He was engaged in P.O.C, got a drink. That's what the P.O.C is here at Starbucks. Got a coffee drink, was at the condiment area, and returned to the vehicle in the parking lot. So what is relevant about that is that not only does that firefighter represent the state, that's P.O.C for the stalking, that firefighter also representative of the ongoing search, and the timing of his appearance, again, is not a coincidence, in relevant position to me inside of this cafe, that's for the search, but also the location of the vehicle in the parking lot, which was in relevant position to my position inside of the vehicle. Inside of this establishment. Again, that's not a coincidence, that is an ongoing search. The vehicle itself contains a communication device. This is also speaking relevantly, this is also relevant to that which I documented upon my arrival to Starbucks. Samantha inside of the building in relevant position as I walk around to the entrance, which is anticipated. I'm subject to ongoing stalking and monitoring. Third party in relevant position parallel to my physical position as I walk toward the entrance. Okay, this is not a coincidence. Third parties in the parking lot. So this is being surrounded en route to the entrance, and Samantha's position is also relevant to that which is occurring inside of the bathroom. And again, I noted the fact that on a communication device, where even though they don't even have to hold it up, they are each representing a communication device. This is the same consistent P.O.C over and over and over again, and what I am showing is that it is irrespective of the ways in which they seek to convey their status or their role. It is irrelevant. This is the very system that is at work. And so what is fascinating is the arrival of the state via the firefighter, which I documented in stills, and what immediately happened again. This is comparable to my documenting the camera that was in relevant position to me as I was going to be seated, they assumed so, at the same location where I sit at the table. The camera was in relevant position to that. As I took the pictures of that, who arrived? Law enforcement, with immediacy. As I took the picture of the firefighter in relevant position to my location inside of the cafe, engaged in a vital conversation that is subject to monitoring, that is highly interesting, which is speaking to his presence and his relevant position, where there is a communication device inside of the vehicle as well, which is pursuant to the same search and monitoring. You have the arrival of the airplane flying directly over Starbucks with immediacy to my taking stills of the presence of the firefighter. This is, again, this is no matter of being a question. What I am doing is I am simply providing additional, more and more substantiation, even though the case against the state of California is already been prosecuted. It is already proven. Again, this is a methodical process through which I am going. I am showing the ways in which this crime duplicates itself, the ways in which it appears, the ways in which it manifests, the ways in which it seeks to conceal itself. But what I am showing is that it is actually not concealed at all. This is public corruption that is out in the open. It is in your face, and I'm showing the ways in which it has been thus far, up until my documentation of what is actually occurring is actually underway, and the ways in which they do that. Like I said, the presence of the airplane, the presence of the state, the presence of the flashing of the lights, the timing with which all of these elements are occurring, this is the system. And there is no argument, there is nothing that they can twist or make some sort of nuance or make any legitimate argument for. This speaks to the desperate acts and the high criminal conduct that I am documenting. And again, the third parties are engaged in desperate, relentless conduct. And the fact that the third-party employees are engaged in consistent nonverbal communication, that in and of itself is indicative. In the flashing of lights, that in and of itself, again, is indicative of the same system that is occurring. The targeted individual is always surrounded. This is speaking to what the third parties inside of this establishment are doing right now as I speak. It is no longer hidden. It is no longer a mystery whatsoever. What I am showing is that under the guise of sitting in a cafe, and the facts that are going to be the facts that are going to be at play in such a venue are what are exploited in order to engage in criminal conduct, and that is exactly what this is. This is pursuant to state-organized stalking, harassment, and monitoring, and I am showing the ways in which they engage in that. The nonverbal communication is relevant to the third parties that are surrounding the targeted individual, even right now, inside and outside of this building. The ways in which, when I travel, I am showing the ways that this same crime is given a different method, but it is the same exact identical behavioral patterns that are at play. And sitting inside of here, each and every one of these third parties are implicated in the same crime, and this speaks to that which will be lodged against Starbucks as a facilitating venue. The conduct on the part of the third parties themselves, in addition to the third-party employees. This is attributed to the state. However, the liability of the third parties themselves, they are also subject to tortious and criminal liability under my theory. There is no exception. There is no exclusion. What you are showing is the way that this system operates, and so ordinarily a target individual would have no clue that it is occurring. What I am showing is that this is the way that it manifests itself, and it shows how sick each and every one of these individuals are when you are uncovering what is actually occurring. And again, based on the consistency of the behavioral patterns, the presence of all elements, the feasibility with which it is able to occur, the seamless manner in which it is able to occur, that is speaking to that which is not only possible and highly probable because of the lack of coincidence, because of the ongoing stalking of the state. This is, again, the reason why the state is engaged in stalking, and this is speaking to, it is revelatory of that which I am actually documenting, that the third parties who are surrounding me right now inside of this facilitating venue are actually engaged in, while they all listen to me document their conduct. The state of California is anxious to be exposed for what they are actually engaged in, and it is a sick, malicious, highly criminal, and desperate system that I'm exposing. And so it's 2:24 p.m. and I am remaining inside of this facilitating venue on January 13, 2020. And again, the P.O.C. remains underway. It does not stop. And in addition to that, the state is engaged in, well, that is the P.O.C., but what I want to provide is added context. This is pursuant to a desperate and highly relentless and pathetic, really, effort to try and steal electronic information which they will not be succeeding in. What I want to do and what I will do, my intention in not only documenting it, I already have the case against the government, against the third parties, and showing what the actual system looks like and how it operates. But what I am doing now is giving the added context. I am coloring the character of their conduct. It's not just the fact, again, it is the answering the question as to why and how, and what facts were at play when they were engaging in it, and what they intended to do. This is what is speaking to the sickness that is prevalent in California, and the guise under which it disguises itself. This is pure evil. It is demonic activity, actually, and that's really the truth behind it. And you see the ways in which it seeks to conceal itself, the way it presents itself, and this is what is occurring on a large scale in California. Again, January 13, 2020, 2:24 p.m. It's 2:34 p.m. and I want to make another specific note with regard to the courts. And again, the court's conduct, they are another vessel of the same state, the same entity. I want to document their conduct as of to date. Again, they originally claimed that my documents were filed January 3rd. That's a lie. It's a misrepresentation, and it is the subject of my documentation showing that all the way into January 3rd into the evening after 6 p.m. there was no notification or filing posted on the True Filing site. That is also directly addressed with an officer of that court who then recanted, I guess, on their claim that I needed to file a fee waiver, which again is just another form of the same delay, playing games, complicit to the same criminal conduct. All the while I'm continuing to document moment by moment this ongoing stalking, which is not a question. It's already established not only in the court documents submitted, in the writ petition submitted, but also in my documentation. Again, so this is showing Just added context is another layer to the same system. It is all in conformity to the same P.O.C, particularly with regard to the courts. They have their own P.O.C, but it is in conformity to the overall P.O.C with regard to the elements of third-party conduct, the presence of the airplane. It is the same. And what I have, again, is not only misrepresentations by the Supreme Court based on what they are posting, they also backdated to the proper date, January 6th, which is the filing date, where they misrepresented originally that it was January 3rd. Again, that's a matter of my documentation. To date, they did not follow through with rendering any order as to my fee waiver. We are at January 13th, where they claim to have filed my documents now on January 6th, as opposed to originally January 3rd. Regardless, this is another substantial delay. This is in conformity to that which the Court of Appeals did as well. This is in conformity with regard to the Superior Court as well. Misrepresentation and substantial delays that are unreasonable, that have no legitimate argument whatsoever. So it's January 13th, and what I'm also documenting is the absence of any publishing. Under the rules, the court has the responsibility of not only publishing but maintaining the list of the parties to the case once it's filed, and that is because it is my responsibility as the petitioner prosecuting the case to provide electronic service. I am unable to do so based on the court's intentional failure to provide that list. Again, this is just my documentation of the court's conduct. This is very relevant to the case against the state, very relevant to what I'm documenting on a daily basis. Again, with regard to third parties, this is the same entity that is seeking to avoid prosecution, which is inevitable. What I want to show is what each and every aspect of this case is revealing, and it is revealing the same theme over and over and over again. The California Supreme Court has to date not filed my declaration of service. I delivered I delivered the writ petition as per the California rules require. They have not yet file it, and again, that is not some happenstance. That is, again, intentional deliberate failure. They should have filed all of the documents, and also it is in violation of the rules for them to do so. Where it is in compliance with the rules, they are obligated to file it, and as to date have not done so, have not published the list for electronic service, are literally sitting on the case. This is the same conduct of the Superior Court, same conduct of the Appeals Court. This is 2:39 p.m. and again, this is directly relevant to the state that is engaging in futile yet highly desperate and criminal efforts to try to steal electronic information. Not only will that not happen, but this will be the substance of pleadings against the state and the United States Supreme Court. What I am interested in doing is showing at every facet the same entity in all the ways in which it works, right? The court is not engaging in this P.O.C. for no reason. The state is not engaged in stalking me via law enforcement and aircraft for no reason. It is directly relevant to what I continue to document with regard to these third parties. It is intentionally so. It is 2:39 p.m. and that is the latest with regard to the court that is literally sitting on the case. You're talking about filed, it should have been filed on January 3rd, not filed until January 6th. We are over a week now, January 13th, and absolutely no action has been taken as is represented, as I have a right to know, and so that is reasonably relied upon what they post on the site, what they notify me with, and this is based on requirements of the rules, the California rules of court. So yeah, so it's January 13, 2020, 2:40 p.m.